My name's Ashley Winston. I run Palmdale Car Finders. I'm very pleased this morning, or if you listen to this in the evening, this evening or this afternoon, to be interviewing an awesome guy, Alistair Murray. Just a bit of background into this interview. This is for the Association of Relocation Professionals, and it's part of a small series of interviews where we're interviewing key people in the industry who have a great story to tell. The hope of this is that by listening to this interview, you'll gain something from it because everyone we're interviewing you is someone very interesting who has definitely has information worth listening to share. Um, Alistair, I've known you for good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you
Hello,
as
good morning,
well.
afternoon.
I've known you for a few years now. Yeah, I'm going to embarrass you by saying that for me, you are one of the key people in the UK relocation industry. You've been very influential on me personally, which I'm very grateful for. And you've always been someone in the industry who I know everyone I meet looks up to and loves. So if that's not bigging you up enough, then I don't know what is.
Yeah, it definitely is. Thanks.
I also know you're very you like to be understated, so you can find this really embarrassing. So it's also my pleasure to be
Correct.
embarrassing you as well at the same time.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
So I've got five questions to ask you, please.
Okay.
And I'd be grateful for you to share as much information as you can. My first question is whether you can share a little bit about your career in relocation, and that's working with both DSPs and RMCs before you recently moved to REOC.
Fine. Okay. Going right back to the beginning when everything was in black and white. I feel like could end up like Uncle Albert and Only Fools and Horses if I'm not careful. Going back talking about
Sure, we can do that.
a long time ago. Well, before entering the relocation industry, I worked for Yellow Pages. So I was a salesperson at a very large telephone directory as the internet was becoming a thing. And that was incredible grounding because at that company, you were basically told you had to go and see everybody twice. Two meetings. One was to ask as many questions as possible, find out as much information as you could about that business and about that person, and then go back to present on everything you found out. So I feel
Okay.
like that in itself, before starting within the mobility, the relocation industry gave me fantastic training, perfect training to approach any kind of sales call or any kind of sales approach. And that, I think, the reason why I'm mentioning that, I think, is something that my boss at Robinsons, the lady that hired me, Rhonda, had heard really good things about. She was aware of the training you receive at Yellow Pages, how intense it is, how useful it is. And yeah, so I think that's why she wanted to hire me. And the reason why I wanted to join Robinsons way back in I was going to say 20, like 2007, long time ago, was because of her, because she's great. And we're really good friends now. Already,
Cheers. Yeah.
yeah. And she's a big fan of yours, Ash, as well, as you know, because you ask
Stop.
because you ask good questions. It's all part of the same conversation because you ask good questions. So yeah, I met Rhonda, started at Robinsons. Robinsons back then were very well-known household goods company. So I was hired as a business development manager in the household goods industry. But we won a relocation contract to provide destination services. So we won the contract before we could actually deliver the services. So signed the contract and then realized we had to find a way of actually doing what we said we were going to do, which was amazing.
Is,
It was a great
is
experience.
is that fake it till you make it that I hear everyone
Pretty
talking
much, yeah,
about?
to almost like to the an extreme degree, because yeah, we could use references to win the contract for providing household goods services, but you had to start from scratch, and I loved that. I loved that kind of entrepreneurial spirit of thinking, how exactly are we going to do this and make it work? So built a department. Rhonda built a department, which I was a part of, had a fantastic team of people. And from then on, I think I kind of knew all those years ago that I loved the relocation industry. Loads of really great people. I think because of the nature of what we do, it attracts a certain type of person, where customer
Yeah.
service is really important, where emotional intelligence is really important, and the kind of qualities that you need to deliver our services attracts a certain type of person, which I really like. So yeah, so my time at Robinsons, 7 years at Robinsons, had a really fantastic time, worked with a really great team. The one thing I kind of struggled with a little bit was that relationship between RMCs and DSPs and prospective and existing clients. So I was learning this for the first time, but I have a huge amount of respect for anyone that works in sales for an RMC supplier, because you effectively have a pool of companies that you can talk to, but that pool is quite small because you're not allowed to speak to any of your
Yeah.
RMC clients. And that becomes quite a challenge sometimes because you really don't know which RMC is talking to which company and which ones you're allowed to speak to or which ones you have to leave well alone. And if you have that relationship in place and you work with relocation management companies, you're obviously going to respect that. You don't want to upset anybody. So you will leave well alone of those companies who are already working with one of your clients or potential clients. So that was a challenge.
Okay.
And that was kind of about the same time that a relocation management company approached me to say, would you like to work with us on our sales team? And I thought, okay, well, maybe that helps solve that challenge because then I don't have to worry about upsetting anybody. I can literally speak to anybody, any organization of any size in the world. And that was my time at Server. So I worked as a business development director at Server, had some amazing experiences of presenting to some of the biggest organizations in the world. Adidas being a key highlight. So we presented to Adidas in Germany and then the same to the Adidas team in Hong Kong. Loved that experience. Had no intention of moving on. I thought it was a great company and definitely going places. But was approached by Relocation Support, I think a company you know really well, actually.
A little bit. I know a couple of people there, maybe.
Yeah, worked with for a long time. So real surprise that I'd be approached to be a managing director of a small business, but an opportunity that was too good to turn down, really. And again, absolutely loved my time there. So RSS are really great company, been around 25, 30 years now. Always done a fantastic job, always employed really great people. And I loved my time there. And then maybe, I don't know, maybe sometimes I overthink my career because I was thinking, okay, well, we've just decided as a nation to leave the EU. And I work for an organization that's fundamentally based on people moving to the UK and thinking that could be a problem. I think maybe in hindsight, overestimated that problem. I think, the Brexit issues that the relocation industry have probably been masked by other global issues. And there always seems to be something that's affecting the world economy quite drastically. So probably haven't seen the full effect of Brexit and how that might affect relocation in some regard. But yeah, moved to Pack Pex to a European relocation company and learnt a lot there as well about growth through acquisition. That whole mergers and acquisition conversation I found fascinating. So I feel like I picked up great experience and worked with great people as my career has progressed. But then, had the conversation with Ariosi. So to bring it up to speed, up to date.
So to ask you about this, what drew you to Ariosi and kind of what excites you most about this new chapter?
I'm so glad you jumped in because I could probably just talk forever, and that would have been the end of the conversation. One question.
I'm sure you could.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Good. Second question. Good. What drew me to Ariosi is that I feel like I was ready for a change, a slight refreshing approach to my career. So I'm now working more in the service department sector, and there's been a fair few people, you probably would have noticed in our industry, that moved from mobility into the service department sector specifically, because there are strengths within that sector that I think are not being felt elsewhere. There isn't quite so much of the pressure, the industry pressure in terms of how you demonstrate the value you provide to your clients and the margins being squeezed. So I learned about the Ariosi role through a friend of mine that I've known for a long time, another person that I met at a Euro conference many years ago. He mentioned the role to me and said, would you be interested? And the more I learned, the more I liked, basically, because it was going back to kind of a role very similar to what I was doing at RSS in terms of running a small business, being responsible for everything from recruitment and training and financial reporting and sales and marketing and operations, and yeah, being in charge of a small team, really great team that provide a really great service. So yeah, so the more I learned, the more I liked. So it's one of those areas where I'm given a fair amount of autonomy.
I
I'm
can see
definitely
that
not.
working for you.
Yeah, definitely. I'm
Yeah.
not kind of micromanaged. I am already sort of 5, 6 weeks in being told it's up to me to make the decisions that will help the company progress. I really like that, but I also really like the potential the organisation
Okay.
has. There's a lot I think we can do. So
So
yeah, put those two things together. Go on, sorry.
I was about to say, so you're 5, 6 weeks in, which is new. I mean, that's nothing in the terms of how long you've been working for somewhere.
Yeah.
Says the guy who's been doing the same thing for 20 years. But have there been any standout moments in those first 5 or 6 weeks for you?
Yeah, it's definitely meeting the team. The standout moment's meeting the team. When you realise that you work with a group of people who are really motivated, prepared to roll their sleeves up. They don't just want to perform their own role and follow their own job description. They'll do anything to make the company successful, whether that's turning up at work at 6 o'clock in the morning to let the caterers in for an event later that day, or turning their hand to something that is not specifically part of their department or their remit, and really keen to make things work. So I've really enjoyed getting to know the team. I've really enjoyed getting to know, like I say, a different part of the mobility industry. It's another world with a huge number of acronyms that I wasn't aware of. So I have to change my acronym glossary to keep referring to that kind of
Go
thing.
on. What's the weirdest acronym you've come across, the new acronym you've come across so far?
There are a lot. There's ADRs and GDSs and PSMs, and I didn't want to be the guy in the meeting. It was like, sorry, what does that mean? Sorry, what does that mean? So I just kind of scribble them down, and then think I'll go and look in my own time so that I can appear knowledgeable next time. But I love that as well. I love the fact that I'm learning something new. And so I'm meeting, there's a whole other network of people that I haven't met before that I don't know. Service department operators, different networking events to go to where I'm not going to walk into a room and just know everybody there or know the vast majority
What? Doesn't
there.
sound like you.
It's great though. It's great because it kind of takes me back to what I was doing right back in sort of 2007 when I'd walk into a room and think, why does everybody know everybody except me and I know nobody? And that's definitely what it felt like a long time ago. It kind of feels like that a little bit again, in a good way, because then I'm out of my comfort zone again and thinking, I need to go and meet people and get to know people and find out about them afresh, which I haven't done for a while. So yeah, that kind of
But,
makes me.
but
Well,
I can see how you'd enjoy that. So for me, it's very interesting the fact that you've spent a lot of your career in the kind of DSP RMC side of things, and now you're on the, or maybe what I call the supplier side of things, in the accommodation market. From your first life, what skills have you found that actually you've been able to transfer to, your new life on the other side of the border, as it were?
so I still feel like, well, I am. I'm a service provider. Ariosi provides services to clients. So I'm not kind of, those people that have worked for a corporation, who've worked for a, multinational organization who um, work with their supply chain. I've always been part of the mobility supply chain, um, whether that's at an RMC level or DSP or now with Ariosi. But hopefully, in my time throughout my career, different people I've worked with, different organizations, there are skills that you pick up along the way, right from, like I said, the reason I mentioned Yellow Pages is right from the beginning, is asking good questions and actually taking really good care to listen to the answers. So now, all these years later at Ariosi, I'm having really interesting conversations with people I've known a long time, but it's a very different type of conversation. So
Okay.
I'm really interested to talk to, for example, UK DSPs, because one of the services that Ariosi provides is training. We provide training which in the past has been specifically aimed at the service department operators, but doesn't have to be. It's training that can benefit anybody. So UK DSPs, when they have their management conversations, their employee development conversations, if they have a learning and development budget, we can help with the development of their people within their team. So I'm having really interesting conversations. So I really respect every UK DSP in our market. They're generally friends. They all run great companies, you know, whether it's Icon or TTH or Clearview or HCR, RSS, they're all really great companies that have gone through a lot over the years. And now I can speak to all of these guys and say, well, let's talk about some topics that are slightly different. And it changes the dynamic completely, because we've been friends for years, but kind of had that conversation where it's a little bit guarded, because we know we're competitors and we're probably, you know, potentially having conversations with the same prospects, or, you know, working for the same RMC. So you don't want to give too much away. Whereas now it's different. And I find that quite refreshing, where we can be really open with each other and say, is there a way that we can help one another? Because I do know from experience, you know, the kind of challenges that DSPs or RMCs will face. So yeah, that's been really helpful.
Okay.
And then without doubt, the thing that's, you know, not maybe helped me the most, one of the things that's definitely helped me the most was my education, my financial education at RSS. So running a small business where it's an incredibly tight ship and every penny is scrutinized was the perfect grounding for me in roles I've done since. So RSS were fantastic at making sure that every penny that you could invoice to a client was. You don't miss anything out. You don't leave anything on the table. You also invoice it as soon as you possibly can. You don't wait, you know, to do it on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis. You're kind of getting invoices on the day, you know, the day you can, and then you're chasing the money as quickly as you can, because of the, you know, the importance of cash flow and making sure you have enough money in the bank to pay salaries at the end of the month. And I think sometimes in large organizations, that gets completely lost. And, you know, there are companies leaving money on the table or not collecting money as quickly as possible because they can get away with it, because they have a huge amount of money in the bank. So now I learned that. I'm very grateful to everyone at RSS for teaching me that, because now at Ariosi, one of the first things I've been spending a lot of my time on in the first 5 or 6 weeks is really understanding the numbers. You know, it's a bit like it's like a bit like a Dragon's Den thing, isn't it? Like if you try and pitch to Dragon's Den and you don't know your revenue numbers and your margins and, you know, your predicted estimates of how things are going to work in the future based on your current financial position, you get nowhere. And I feel like that's something I've learned. It's been incredibly helpful for my time at Ariosi. Yeah, to kind of get, I use a terrible dad joke, but to get under the bonnet.
Oh no. Oh, you said bonnet though. I'm gonna get behind that.
So yeah, so to get under the bonnet of the finances of an organization, to really understand the numbers in order to then make decisions. You know, if we're talking about attending a conference or hiring somebody or whatever it may be, I can only really confidently make those decisions once I've fully understood the P&L. And I learned that at my time at RSS. So a really great experience.
Good. Okay. Final question.
Okay.
Yeah, I will always talk to you all day long, given the opportunity to. We're gonna
Yeah, another time.
makes the final one.
Yeah.
What I know, okay, we spoke about the past, spoke about the present, I want to know about the future. So what are your goals for the next year for Ariosi? I'd especially like to know how you plan to use the most of your kind of unique experience that you have in your new role.
Okay, so definitely the plan is definitely one of growth. We're a new company. Ariosi started trading 4 years ago. Provides a fantastic service, different pillars, different services that we offer. So we have a great training team. We have a fantastic tech platform called Orbi Relo. We provide consulting services, and we produce an annual report. And all 4 of those different pillars or different services has a huge amount of growth potential. So I think
Okay.
my job is, well, firstly, to start with, is to, like I say, is to fully understand the numbers and what we can actually afford, and how we're going to allocate certain budgets and certain funds. But in order to put that path in place to grow, whether it's the right people, whether it's making sure everyone's clear on the strategy or the vision of the organisation and how we're going to get there. And yeah, I think that's my role, to support the team as much as possible in those growing pains, because we want to try, and already we're having conversations about, you know, potentially need to recruit possibly even 2 people due to growth with a particular client. So I've kind of been through that a lot over the years. You know, the peaks and troughs of demand in relocation can be quite stressful. You know, we all know that a few years ago, maybe post-COVID, um, summer was a nightmare for everybody because you had this huge peak in volume, generally with the same number of people. And the question that clients would always ask back then was, how do you guarantee that you keep the quality of service consistent when quantity is very much inconsistent and
Mm.
you can't just hire people and train them within a month? And it's a great question. It's one that most companies were kind of, you know, wrestling with for years. So yes, those kind of things that I've been through that hopefully my experience can think, well, let's try and plan ahead to make sure that the team aren't too stretched, they aren't too um, overworked, and we have the right sort of structures in place, right processes in place for growth. Um, and it doesn't have to be kind of, yeah, it doesn't have to be that stressful and you know, people being burnt out. It can be slow progression where we know where we're working towards in the next 3, 5, and then 10 years time.
Wonderful. Alistair, thank you so much. Well,
You're welcome.
I appreciate your time. It's always great to hear your experiences and to hear your story again, and also to hear
Very much,
what's
Ash.
going
Thank you.
going future. So,
See you in person, hopefully very soon.
I'm sure you absolutely will. So thank you everyone for watching this. If you want to know more about ARP, there are other videos on the website. Of course, there are lots of events on the calendar, so please check out the ARP, the Association of Relocation Professionals website for more events. And if you join as a member, there are extra benefits as well. And thank you all very much for watching. And once again, finally, thank you very much, Al. It's been a pleasure once again.
Thank you, Ash. Thanks.